Human life stretches across time in ways that cannot be measured solely by heartbeats or muscle endurance. The modern obsession with health as a cult of appearance and performance has overshadowed deeper, quieter truths, perhaps uncomfortable, but no less real. What sustains true longevity is not physical exercise, but the invisible workouts of the soul. Carl Jung, more than any other thinker of the 20th century, saw this clearly when he understood that the human soul sickens and dies long before the body. And when the soul dies, the body merely goes through biological formalities, like a tree that remains standing long after it has rotted from within. Jung didn't simply seek to understand the psyche. He sought to illuminate what modern man has lost: meaning. And to live to be 100 or more without becoming a shadow of yourself demands precisely that: rediscovering meaning. Not the superficial kind found in miracle diets or trendy workout routines, but the kind that emerges from deep contact with the unconscious, with ancestral symbols, with the inner journey that so few dare to undertake. Modern civilization has trained us to look outward, for appearances, achievements, applause. But true longevity requires a radical change of axis. We must look inward. It's not sweat that purifies, it's lucidity. It's not mechanical repetition that regenerates, but a profound reconciliation with everything that has been repressed, forgotten, or despised. Western culture has become a training ground for ego gladiators. You must be thin, productive, efficient, motivated, competitive. But who said the human body is a war engine? Who said we must live in a constant simulation of youth? Living long is about living well. And living well means not abandoning yourself. Those who surpass 90 or 100 years without ever stepping into a gym or obsessively counting calories have one thing in common that Western science hesitates to admit: inner peace. But not passive or naive peace. I am speaking of the peace that comes from confronting the densest parts of one's own being. Jung called this process individuation. A man who undergoes this, even if he works the land, even if he never practices yoga, will live longer and better than the fitness addict who flees from himself every day. In the blue zones of the world, where people often live past 100, you won't find crowded gyms or fitness fanatics. What you find is rhythm, a vital cadence. People who walk in the morning not out of obligation, but for pleasure. Who eat simply, not by diet, but by tradition. Who gather for long conversations, not for networking, but because human connection has value in and of itself. That is the key. Modern man is dying younger not from a lack of exercise, but from an excess of anxiety. His mind is overloaded, his soul divided, his unconscious buried beneath mountains of advertising, pornography, tasks, and distractions. No muscle can support a shattered soul. Jung knew that life demands a radical commitment to one's wholeness. That means embracing your monsters, integrating your opposites, bearing the weight of your own destiny. The man who does this may drink his wine, smoke his cigarette, eat his greasy meat, and still live longer than the one who abstains from everything but never dives into himself. Because the body is a servant of the soul. And when the soul bows to its own truth, the body follows. Premature death, in most cases, is merely the biological signature of a neglected spiritual process. The real disease begins when we stop listening to our dreams, when we suppress our emotions, when we disconnect from the archetypes that structure us. Those who live to 100 with an ordinary life don't do so because they've beaten the odds, but because they remained faithful to themselves. The elderly Japanese woman tending her plants, the old Italian man playing cards with friends, the farmer who prays before every meal. They all share an invisible axis, a solid center, a harmony with life's flow. They don't fight existence. They don't try to control time. They don't need to win. They simply are. Modernity traded this for pills, running apps, personal trainers, and 6-minute promises. But living long has nothing to do with intensity. It's about depth. Jung warned that the second half of life, starting around age 40, is when we must descend into the basement of the soul. That's where we face the shadow. That's where we discover we are not our resumes, not our follower counts. That's where we feel the void. And only those who walk through this abyss, who do not flee, are rewarded with the wisdom that extends life. Most people die inside at this stage. They anesthetize. They pretend everything is fine. They trade their soul for a stable routine. But those who dare descend, even silently, even without words, return transformed. And that transformation, that secret alchemy, that internal rebirth, is what grants the body a new vitality. Illness, more often than not, is the cry of a soul ignored for too long. Chronic anxiety, insomnia, unexplained pain, all are echoes of a neglected unconscious. And no exercise can heal that. Only confrontation, only radical listening, only the plunge. Living to 100 without exercise is possible, but it's rare, because it demands courage. The courage to stop, to be silent, to remember, to feel, not to run, not to hide behind packed schedules, status, or distractions. One must touch the untouchable within. One must accept that life is not about control, but about surrender. Ancient peoples knew this. Shamans, monks, the elders of the tribe, they all knew that longevity depended more on the soul than on the body. And they built rituals, symbols, myths to help people integrate. Modern life destroyed those supports. And now we are alone. But the soul hasn't vanished. It only whispers more softly. It still waits. And those who listen to it, even without fully understanding, begin to change. They begin to sleep better, to smile more, to eat with pleasure, to walk slowly. And time begins to bend toward them. Because time respects those who honor it. Carl Jung may not have lived to 100, but he left us a map that points inward. And those who follow it, even without toned muscles or perfect cardio, can live to 100 with dignity, lucidity, and soul. Because in the end, it's not the lack of exercise that kills, it's the absence of self.